Mark always believed he had the perfect life. He had a beautiful wife, Clara, a cozy house in the suburbs, and a job he didn't hate. Their love story felt like something out of a movie. High school sweethearts who'd navigated the awkwardness of college and the pressures of early adulthood, always with their hands intertwined. They were a team, or so he thought. The day it all shattered started like any other Tuesday. It was their anniversary, 7 years of what Mark considered blissful marriage. He left work early, a bouquet of Clara's favorite stargazing lilies sitting on the passenger seat. He couldn't wait to see her face. He pictured her smile, the way her eyes would light up, and the warm embrace that always felt like coming home. He pulled into the driveway and noticed an unfamiliar black sedan parked by the curb. He didn't think much of it at first. Maybe a friend of Clara's or a salesperson. Humming their favorite song, he walked up the porch steps, keys jingling in his hand. The flowers smelled sweet, a stark contrast to the bitter reality waiting for him inside. As he turned the key in the lock, he heard voices. A woman's laugh. Clara's, no doubt. But then a man's deeper voice, low and intimate. Mark's heart skipped a beat. A cold feeling started to creep up his spine. He quietly pushed the door open, his happy humming replaced by the frantic pounding in his ears. And there they were. In his living room, on his couch, was his wife, entangled with another man. The lilies dropped from his hand, scattering petals across the hardwood floor like fallen tears. The room went silent. Clara's eyes widened in panic, scrambling to cover herself. The man, a stranger with a smug look, just stared back at Mark. The world seemed to spin. Every shared memory, every whispered, "I love you," every future plan they'd made, all flashed before his eyes, now tainted and twisted. The man was her boss, David, a name Clara had mentioned often, but always in a professional context. "He's such a great mentor," she'd say. Now Mark saw the mentorship for what it really was. "Mark," Clara stammered, her voice a pathetic whisper. It's not what it looks like." "Not what it looks like?" Mark's voice was hollow, devoid of emotion. He felt numb, detached, as if he was watching a scene from a tragic movie. "You're in our home, on our couch, with your boss. What am I supposed to think it looks like, Clara? A business meeting?" The sarcasm dripped from his words, but there was no anger yet, just a profound, soul-crushing sadness. The stranger, David, had the audacity to stand up, buttoning his shirt. "Look, man, maybe you should just go for a walk. Let us figure this out." Something inside Mark snapped. The numbness gave way to a surge of pure, unadulterated rage. But he didn't yell. He didn't throw a punch. He just looked at David with a chilling calmness. "Get out of my house. Now." David scoffed but saw something in Mark's eyes that made him reconsider. He grabbed his jacket and left without another word, not even a glance back at Clara. The front door clicked shut, leaving Mark and Clara alone in the wreckage of their marriage. Clara started to cry, a torrent of tears and excuses. "It just happened, Mark. I didn't mean for it to. I was lonely. You're always so busy at work." The justifications were pathetic, each word a new dagger in his already bleeding heart. "Lonely?" Mark finally looked at her, truly looked at her, and saw a stranger. "I worked extra hours to save for that trip to Italy you wanted for our anniversary. I was planning to surprise you tonight. I was doing it for us, Clara, for our future." He gestured to the scattered lilies on the floor. "Happy anniversary!" He didn't wait for a response. He walked past her, up the stairs to their bedroom. No, his bedroom now. He grabbed a duffel bag and started throwing clothes into it. He moved with a mechanical precision, his mind a blank slate. He couldn't process the full extent of the pain. Not yet. Clara followed him, pleading. "Mark, please don't leave. We can fix this. I love you." Mark stopped, turning to face her one last time. "Love? You don't know the first thing about love. You destroyed it. You destroyed us." He zipped the bag, his movements sharp and final. He walked back down the stairs, stepping over the flowers without a second thought. At the door he paused, his hand on the knob. He didn't turn around. "I hope it was worth it," he said, his voice barely a whisper. And then he walked out. He walked away from the house they'd built, the life they'd shared, and the woman he thought he knew. He walked out with a broken heart, but for the first time in a long time he was walking toward his own future. Alone, but free. Leaving was the hardest and easiest thing he'd ever done. The days that followed were a blur of grief, anger, and legal paperwork. But through it all, a small, resilient part of him began to heal. He realized that the end of his marriage wasn't the end of his life. It was a painful, brutal, but necessary reset. Mark learned that sometimes walking away from something broken is the only way to find the pieces of yourself you lost along the way. His journey was far from over, but he was no longer walking in someone else's shadow. He was walking in his own light. He walked in with flowers and a heart full of love, and he walked out with a lesson he would never forget. The most important love is the love you have for yourself. That day, he didn't just lose a wife. He found himself. And that was a trade he would eventually, in time, come to accept. His story is a powerful reminder that even from the deepest heartbreak, new beginnings can grow. Thank you for watching and listening to this story. If you've ever been through something similar, know that you are not alone and that there is light at the end of the tunnel. Please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more stories. We'll see you in the next one.